Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Steve. I'm going to be uploading videos here for the next couple months at least. Just kind of getting a feel for what I want to do here. I am currently working on studying for some of the computer science degree stuff, the Network Plus certification and the CCNA. CCNA stands for the Cisco Training, I can't remember what it's called. It's something awesome, I guess. They're pretty close to each other, to be honest. Just CCNA is Cisco's version of the Network Plus course, which is informative and helpful. I live here in the Denver, Colorado area, and where there's just tons of jobs exploding with networking stuff and computer stuff. So it's a great field to be in for where I'm living, which I think is great. My background right now is I worked at Apple for 5 years, and I ended up just leaving because it was a little bit too much work for me to want to try and do that and school at the same time. And I have my A+ certification that I just finished up. That book was really hard to brute force. It's like 1,300 pages. Why do we need that much? I already knew most of the stuff. The problem I had was I had to learn the smaller details of things, which is annoying and tedious. What I'm planning on doing with the network and the CCNA, if I can get a job before I finish them, which would be ideal, is just to learn it all and use things like YouTube and my blog site and my website to propel my, hey, I have knowledge section, like, hey, let me just overwhelm you with information. And that's kind of where I want to be with this series. I'm going to start covering some of the topics that I'm really interested in or just learned about, and like, hey, I need to do a data dump and teach about this. I understand it, but I also need to teach it. Can't promise I'll be 100% accurate on stuff because I am just learning stuff just now. It's very much like me just sticking my head to a fire hydrant, just getting blown away with the amount of information. But it's been a lot of fun. It's something that I'm going to be very passionate about, I think, for a very long time, just because I've grown up doing this stuff. It's super exciting for me. So anyways, that's the direction I'm going to go with this. Is just I'm learning myself, so don't be too harsh on me. And this is just going to be the learning series, essentially. Eventually, I'll probably start covering some more like the Apple topics and stuff that I'm really fluent with. But I just wanted to make this a learning experience and have a lot of fun with this. So what I've been doing, let's see. All right, let me give you my screen. All right, so my website's called adminsloth.com. I was kind of surprised this name was available. I was super stoked. Like, I even got my Reddit name with that too, so it was really cool that I was able to use that as a website. I even started a blog. I'm starting to write some stuff. I'm not an incredible writer just yet, mostly just because of the ADHD that kicks in. But I'll get better with that as I actually start to understand the stuff a little bit more and have time to actually sit down and, like, hey, instead of just taking like a massive amount of notes that I'm doing. So that's going to definitely become more fine-tuned as time goes on. My brother said he'd actually help me a little bit, at least proofread it, make sure it actually sounds fluent. For instance, I've been learning about IPv4 addressing right now, which is a lot of jargon that is important, but it has some cool little twists and turns to it, so I'm excited about it. So I really want to just be able to start taking each section of like the CCNA training and, like, hey, this is my notes section. This is incredibly dense and hard to understand, and then I want to make it teachable, for someone who's put it in layman's terms essentially as much as I can. I'm not sure how I'm going to do all that. I'm kind of winging it at this point still. So I'm eventually going to get in a groove. I'm not sure how much editing and fancy stuff like that I'm going to work on just yet, just because I want to try and just get the information out there, show that I know my stuff, show that I can make it teachable and digestible, which is probably the biggest thing right now. The biggest place I'm going right now for training is IT Pro TV. I find their information to be very digestible. Um, they'll give you concepts and like, hey, this is probably going to be on the test. You should really know this stuff, not just for the test, but also for afterwards. You know, this stuff's going to be important to you. And then they kind of like teach it very basic, give you the core concept, and then if you struggle with parts of it, I would suggest just going out and researching it, which is what I've been struggling with because I've been combining both the network and CCNA, so it's been kind of like a crash course of networking, and my brain's exploding. But it's been fun. It's kind of the fun process of it all. One of the things I do for a break from actually learning stuff, sometimes I'll go find like forums or like Reddit threads and find the little chunk that the person's like, hey, I'm having trouble with, I want to be able to set this up. How do I do it? Before I go look at comments, I'll go and find the answer. So, for instance, I saw somebody with a Cisco question saying, hey, does Cisco offer the LTE versions of their products? And then I went and found the answer, and then somebody else gave like a better answer. I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. And then I like went and did the research over that, and then that made it. I've been doing that kind of stuff because one, it's not scripted from a book, which makes it a little bit harder to find specific answers to things. And two, since it's a real world situation, you're really starting to understand it a little bit better. And it's a nice little break, you know, like a fun little game, like, hey, here's a scavenger hunt. Because that's realistically what happens with troubleshooting is you're like on a scavenger hunt and you have to find the most probable answer and then start with those. And sometimes you don't get just a step-by-step guide. You have to go, well, I understand this stuff, and the thing that makes most sense would be this. So let's start with X, that's the most probable, and then once we understand, and once it's not that, then we have to go, okay, what's the next thing that was going to be in line? And sometimes you just have to go, hey, I honestly, sometimes with people you have to just say, I honestly don't know. Can you give me a few minutes and let me troubleshoot? Can I research this a little bit and then I'll get back to you so I'm not wasting your time because I really respect you. And that can go a long way. That's what I think. That's why Apple does so well is with their troubleshooting. When you get to the senior level of support, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna take care of you, but are you doing okay? Let's sit you down and make sure. You know, do you need a break or anything? I can give you a call back if you need it. You know, how are you doing? You know, has everybody been treating you well?" And then once as a senior person you actually took over that case, you actually had to actually take it over. You had to call them back if you had to. We had instances where cases would go on for weeks or months, where our engineering team just couldn't get a specific answer for some reason. I didn't see that part. I kind of didn't make sense from $1 million company's perspective, but hey, it's Apple. They kind of just take their time sometimes. Or just don't want to spend the resources on something minor, I guess. But then we would call and follow up, say, hey, we're still working on it, or hey, we need more information. Can we get some more diagnostics information? They really cared and kind of didn't care at the same time. It was kind of a weird situation. Some things they would, they jump on right away because it was an actual problem. But some of the minor stuff they would usually just take a much slower approach towards, which was fine. It was just having that, you have to really build a relationship with guests and guide them through stuff, and because you're basically the end of the line for Apple when it comes to troubleshooting. So that's why I'm so excited for this, is just for the just throw in my own take with my perspective on how networking is and how the computers work and what's best practices for things from my perspective. Because that's kind of where I've been. I'm still new at this. I'm gonna probably make mistakes, but that's totally fine. Hopefully you guys correct me of them, but I will do my best to make sure it's accurate and easy to understand, because that's something that's hard to do with computer stuff sometimes. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Apologize if I was rambling. plan on going over some G Suite stuff, some of the stuff that I've been learning with networking stuff, like ransomware has been a huge thing in the news, and I really have some really fun ideas of how a lot of the IT researchers have been going over that, and I'll show some of the research that I've been doing on that, and it's got a lot of interesting multiple levels of safety nets. Essentially, is what starts happening, which is good. I think multi-tiered approaches to especially networking and security is a big thing, and yeah. So, anyways, it was a pleasure talking with you. Hopefully, this wasn't too long and rambly. I'm excited for where this is going to go, and I have a ton of fun ideas on subjects I want to cover. Just barely just starting to make a list as I learn about all the different topics I want to actually teach about. Yeah, I'm almost overwhelmed with how much info there is, but it's gonna be good. The self-paced learning is the best and worst thing you could possibly do as IT person, because it's bad because you don't know necessarily what you should be studying, but at the same time it's great because that's all you're ever going to do as an IT admin is figuring stuff out on your own, because you don't have somebody you can rely on in a lot of cases, and so you have to rely on yourself. And so getting that basic of, okay, what's the generality of how a computer works, and why is it behaving weird, and you really get a good sense eventually of, okay, well, this is the highest probable answer to what we're having issues with, so let's start there. Let's start with all the basics, turn off again. It sounds corny, but they honestly work. Because you need to restart your devices occasionally, and with the day and age that we're in now, people just don't, because everything's always plugged in or has a battery, which it's good etiquette to do that kind of stuff. But anyways, yeah, that's it. I'm excited. Check out my website. Leave comments down below if you have things you want me to research into or explain a little bit more. I'd really love to just put my spin on things, and I'll see if I can get like a video a week at least uploaded, and we'll go from there. See you guys later.